Hey guys, it's me. This video is going to be a little bit different than the normal video I put out, but different is kind of the normal and the regular at this point with the coronavirus thing and all. I just wanted to spend a little bit of time talking about a game franchise that I am loving to play right now. This franchise I am talking about is Dark Souls. If you don't know what Dark Souls is, what are you doing? I'm kidding. Don't worry. I'm not trying to insult you. Don't worry. Dark Souls is a game series that I've recently gotten into, and it's great, and I'm loving every second of playing it. And today, I just wanted to talk about why it's such a good series. This also might be one of my longer videos, and all the clips in this video are from the second Dark Souls, because it's the only game I have clips from. Okay, to start off, what exactly is Dark Souls? If you already know what the game is, then just skip to the time on the screen, or don't, it's completely up to you. Also, I have an apology to any hardcore Dark Souls fans if I butcher the explanation. I just started playing not too long ago. Dark Souls is a game where you are the chosen undead, meaning that you have to rekindle the fire that is burning out. The fire was lit by Gwyn, the Lord of Cinder, and you have to light this fire by going through areas, lighting bonfires, dying, getting to a boss, dying, trying again, dying, and eventually beating the boss and continuing on with the game. Throughout all of this, you are gathering souls, the game's currency, and using those souls to buy items, level up, etc. These games are great, and this was a game that really challenged people and inspired the phrase, "get good." It was a big success, and now any game that follows the same formula is known as a Souls clone. Difficulty. A big part of Souls is its difficulty. The difficulty of these games are such a big thing that most of the marketing revolves around the difficulty. The difficulty is not the entire game, but it is certainly an aspect of it. What I like about the difficulty of Dark Souls is it's not just like a setting in other games, it's more in-depth than that. The games technically revolve around the mechanics to a point where death is literally a mechanic. A lot of the difficulty is the way you choose to play. In Dark Souls 1, if you wanted an easier game, you could go with pyromancies. In Dark Souls 2, you could be a mage. A lot of enemies are very up close and personal with you, so just blasting them from afar is obviously a good choice. And in Dark Souls 3, you can choose the Knight class. It's the best for Dark Souls 3. Another part of the difficulty is the map design. The maps in the game are mostly confusing and easily to get lost in, with the exception of Dark Souls 3, because it's more of a linear thing. In the original, the world was very interesting, and that's really cool, and it was really interconnected. In Dark Souls 2, it was less connected, but still the world was good. In Dark Souls 3, it was more linear, and the aesthetic was very different to the two previous games. In the original 2, the world was more new and somewhat more beautiful. In Dark Souls 1, there was Anor Londo. In Dark Souls 2, there was Hyde's Tower of Flame. Those are the two that stuck out for me, really, in those things. And in Dark Souls 3, the world was more ashy and more depressing, but in a good way. These all relate to the story of the game, so I find it's really... So the feeling of Dark Souls 3, depressing and ashy feel, is a great feel for the third game. Okay, bonfires. Bonfires are another very important thing in Dark Souls. Where they are placed is very, very crucial. In the original Dark Souls, bonfires were more tense, and shortcuts were very important to find because there weren't as many bonfires. This is because the first half of the game, bonfire warping wasn't a thing. Warping is when you can teleport from bonfire to bonfire just by pressing a button. Before that, you had to walk from one to another. This made the game much, much harder. Dark Souls 2 and 3 did not have this, meaning that finding shortcuts is a lot more meaningless, but still has meaning. Just a lot of the shortcuts have bonfires at the end, so I personally don't have a problem with warping right away, but that might just be me, and I didn't get into the games right away, and I'm not that serious as many people are about these games. Alright, death. Death is a very big part of Dark Souls. It is unavoidable. It doesn't matter where you are in Dark Souls, there will always be a chance of death. From dying to an enemy to dying to fall damage, they're both equally possible. Except in some areas, but like the hub areas, but that doesn't matter. Actually, in most hub areas, you can still get killed. Anyway, when this happens, when you die, death is really important because when you die, you lose all the souls you are currently carrying. And when this happens, you respawn at the nearest bonfire, and you have one chance to recover them or say goodbye to those souls forever. And you need those souls. You need them. So try your best not to get stabbed to death, bit to death, burned to death, or fall to your death, etc. This is one of the reasons why bonfires are important, because when you die, you have a bonfire that's closer to the spot, and it makes it a little bit better to reclaim your souls, and it's just a lot better if you die, because then you don't have to wander all the way back, and yeah, it's just better. All right, bosses. Bosses are a big part of the game, and a part that I personally love. There are so many, and they're all great, mostly great. They're all mostly great. Some of them are worse than others, but most of them are great. They all have great designs, and I feel all of them are fair in which ones you have to go up against first in order, because all the bosses are ordered in a way you should kind of do them first to last. It's kind of better that way. I love them because they bring something interesting and sometimes infuriating to the table. The bosses aren't the entire game, because I feel the game is so much more than that, but it's still a great part of the game, and they're definitely the highlights to the levels. Okay. Story. I love the story of Dark Souls. It is very interesting and extremely deep. One of the best parts about the story is that if you don't care to learn the story, you can still play the game just fine. Because the story really isn't put in front of you. If you want to learn about it, you can. You can find it in item descriptions and stuff like that, or NPC talkings, or you can just skip all that and just watch them on YouTube. It's totally your choice. For me, I love story-based games, and that's why I'm always sad when a great game doesn't have a campaign or a story mode. But in Dark Souls' case, you can learn as much about the game's story as you want, and there will always be more waiting for you. Alright, let's get on to some reasons about why I love the game. I have a lot of reasons about why I love the game. Mostly all the reasons I just talked about. The game is great in many, many ways beyond what the game is marketed for. These games check so many of my boxes, and I think that the thing I love most is that they, above all else, is rewarding. These games are tough, yes, but again, they are very rewarding. If you choose to throw yourself at something enough times, you will eventually get through this game. And it's just persistence. Just as much of the game about difficulty and dying and stuff is just persistence. And it teaches persistence, and I love it because you can just go on and go on and go on, and everything just feels so natural, and yeah. All right.